Let him in anyway. Oh, we're live. Wow, I'm trying to start the video and it's already freaking started. Welcome back to the channel and thank you for being here. This video, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, it's going to be an intense video. I got us a microphone, so you should be able to hear me better, hopefully. You'll have to let me know, do a sound check or whatever when somebody finally shows up. This was a very last minute video. But I was told on the way home from work that I was to do a video and it was going to be a surprise. I don't know who the sign is going to be, but it's going to be a video for a specific sign. And we're going to find out right now who that's going to be for. I was going to use the dice, but the dice don't have all 12 signs. This does. This was given to me by a friend of mine. And I'm going to use my pendulum. I use anything for a pendulum as long as it moves back and forth. It's around in circles. In fact, mine spells. I don't know if I've ever met anyone in my whole life that has a pendulum that spells, but mine does. Hey, Purple. What's up, baby? Thank you. You're so sweet. All right, let's see here now. Spirit, show me who this video is for. It's going to be intense now. It's not going to be a feel-good. And I'm also going to tell you that you're going to see a side of me that you've never seen before. Because I'm actually not a tarot reader. I'm what they call a medium. And I don't need cards to get messages. The cards are basically here to verify the messages that I'm already getting. And some of you have been around long enough to know that I can do whole videos and just talk and pull a few cards and it'll all just back up what I've said. But I don't announce that because I don't want to be a bragger. You know what I'm saying? It sounds like I'm bragging. But it doesn't mean that I'm anything special or better than a tarot reader. There's nothing wrong with being just a tarot reader. But there is a big difference in being a medium because mediums are able to connect with the spirit world at all times. It never stops. It's a 24/7. I guess you would call it a gift, but to be honest with you, it comes with a high price. And a lot of it, for me, it was through death, through people dying. And that's what this video is about. It's about somebody losing their best friend. So if you've lost your best friend, you might already know which sign this is going to be for. All right, Spirit. So show us who you want to speak to today or tonight or whenever you see this video. Oh, show me. I don't know why I have to hold my chest, but I do. Who are you speaking to, Spirit? I need to know for sure. Leo. This is a video for the sign of Leo. Show me again. Okay, yeah, this is a video for the sign of Leo. So either you or your friend may have been a Leo, or somehow Leo factors in. All right, I'm going to give you the song that I got, and it's called... And I'm going to tell you the truth. I do not like this song, and I have refused, flat out told Spirit, no, I'm not doing this song because I don't agree with it. But Spirit told me tonight that I have to do it. And there's a few other things I have to do that you might not want to hear. So if you don't, just click off and come back another day and you'll get to see what you enjoy seeing. But tonight, this is for a Leo or some Leos in this collective who have lost their best friend. And they need a message from Spirit. And you may actually get a message from that friend. Because sometimes when you're a medium, that's what happens. They come through your body and give messages. I've had them come through so strong before that it took me 24 hours to recover. And that's just facts. And there's videos in my older videos that show it happening. And the spirits were so strong around me that I was holding up my pendulum and you couldn't even see the chain. It had like it wasn't a chain, it was more like a rope. But they were so strong you couldn't see the rope at all. It was the wildest thing I've ever experienced. And I was actually reading in person for my best friend. But there were two people coming through at once. One of them had committed suicide that weekend, and he was a young guy. And the reason I know he was coming through is because when I was preparing for the video, I was walking like a dude and spitting. And I do not spit. And I don't walk like a guy either. But and I was talking weird, like a young person. All right, so the name of the song is Let Him In Anyway. And I'm going to talk you through this because I don't think you're going to like this song. But some of you may. I mean, I don't know. I don't know who's listening or who's watching, but it's a Blake Shelton song. And God bless his heart for writing something like this. I'm not going to judge anybody, okay? Ain't it a scary thing when somebody's time here ends, laying flowers on their grave, wondering where their soul went? I tried and I tried. He was starting to listen. I brought him to church. He was feeling conviction. But you took him away before I could convince him. So I'm here on my knees saying, hey, God, I know you know what I'm about to pray, God. I just had to suck it up and say goodbye to my best friend. And I don't ever want to never see him again. And I know the only way to get in is through you. And he wasn't quite the Christian he was supposed to be. And Lord, it ain't my place, but could you let him in anyway? I can't imagine the day on my heart's last beat when I walked through those gates and he ain't waiting on me. All I needed was a little more time, I swear. I was so dang close, it ain't fair. So, hey, God, I know you know what I'm about to pray. I just had to suck it up and say goodbye to my best friend. And I don't ever want to never see him again. And I know the only way to get in is through you. And he wasn't quite the Christian he was supposed to be. And Lord, it ain't my place, but could you let him in anyway? Because he was going to let you in any day. And I'm just asking for a miracle. I know you don't owe me anything, but hey, God, I know you know what I'm about to pray, God. I just had to suck it up and say goodbye to my best friend. And I don't ever want to never see him again. And I know the only way to get in is through you. And he wasn't quite the Christian he was supposed to be. And Lord, it ain't my place. Could you let him in anyway? Could you let him in anyway? First of all, who the fuck do you think you are saying he wasn't the Christian that he was supposed to be? Because the last time I checked, this book, in a very popular verse, sorry it's falling apart because I've read it to death. I need to get me a new one. That actually has a story behind it coming out, but I'm not going to tell it right now. I'm being told to read you 2 verses because some people read one but they skip the next one. And that happens a lot with scripture. They'll read one and they skip the one before and the one after. And if you don't read what's going on before and what's going on after, you can totally take it out of context what you're reading. It happens a lot. And I hear it in churches a lot when I go listen to pastors. That's why I don't like to go to church. Because half of them don't know what the hell they're talking about. All right. John 3:16. Okay. For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, so that everyone who believes in him will not perish but have eternal life. God did not send his Son into the world to condemn it. Okay, that's the verse that people miss. They read 3:16, that God so loved the world that he sent his only Son into the world. Okay, let me say it again. For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, so that everyone that believes in him will not perish, but will have eternal life. And they stop right there. All right, let's keep reading. Okay, verse 17. God did not send his Son into the world to condemn it. Did you hear that? He didn't send his Son into this world to condemn us, but to save it. Period. So if you're in this world, he was sent in this world to save you, not to condemn you. So to think that you can ever live a Christian life, if you could, why would Jesus have to go to the cross in the first place? Do you get what I'm saying? None of us are capable. If we were, we would never have needed him to go to the cross. He went to the cross because none of us are capable of living a righteous life. We are made righteous by the blood of Jesus. And the blood only. And if you think that your works are going to make you into heaven or going to get you through into heaven, you are sadly mistaken. And that's why I don't like that song. Because it makes people think that because you don't live a perfect life, that you're going to hell. Hell was not created for human beings. Nowhere in here does it say that it was. It was created for the devil and all of the demons who followed him when he fell from grace. The chief musician in heaven, when he fell from grace, hell was created for him and all of the angels who followed him. Not for humans. God made provision for humans because we were deceived by Satan. Now, do you need to believe? Yes, you need to believe. But if you were born somewhere and you were never taught to believe, do you think that's going to be held against you? I don't. Because it said he died for the whole world. Not just for those who go to church on Sunday, who get baptized. Yes, it says we should do those things to prove to the world that we've changed. But he also said to the thief on the cross beside him, today thou shalt be with me in paradise. And that thief didn't have a chance to do a damn thing except say, this man did nothing wrong. All he knew is this man was perfect, did nothing wrong, and was being crucified for doing nothing. I was called to preach, if you haven't noticed. And I guess I do. All right, so let's see what this book right here has to say, because I was told to get something out of here. But if your best friend died, don't even go there. Don't even go there. Your best friend is at peace. Your best friend is where they're meant to be. They went back to source. They went back to spirit. And that's where they'll be until Spirit decides what to do with them next. And what that is, I don't know. Because Revelation talks about streets of gold. But from my understanding, that was the Roman Empire falling. So I don't know. I mean, it could have like a twofold meaning. But if you read the book of Revelation, all of that's already happened when the Roman Empire fell. When that crazy ass Nero was killing Christians and putting them in lions' dens and tar and feathering them. And God delivered them from him, and Rome burned down. And I think it took like 7 days for it to burn. And he sat there and played the fucking fiddle. All right, Spirit, what message do you have? Let me calm down. But I can't stand it when I hear somebody say that they weren't living a Christian life, so therefore they couldn't make it in. Can you please let them in? You need to be worrying about your damn self. We need to all worry about ourselves, because it also says in there to work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. And don't be worrying about what other people are doing right or wrong, because what's right for me might not be right for you. What's right for you might not be right for me. That's why we got to keep our eyes on the prize and not on each other. All right, Spirit, what would you give us out of this book that would go perfectly with this message? Because Spirit's got a message for somebody, and so it's going to be a powerful one, and it's going to probably not be what you want to hear. The Tower of Shalom. Oh, this is perfect. For he makes his, oh, Spirit. I want y'all to hear what Spirit just chose for this reading. For he makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the just and the unjust. Matthew 3, I can't fucking see. 5:43. When disaster strikes, we often wonder why God allows it. Y'all, I am not making this up. You just saw me choose this page. Some people even direct their anger and accusations towards him. But this is nothing new. The Tower of Siloam was next to the Pool of Siloam, and it was between a colonnade that was connected by the shared pool of Bethesda. Sick and disabled people congregated around these pools with the hope of receiving healing, because once a year, the angels would come and stir the water. And if they could get in that water while those angels were stirring that water, they would be healed. But they had nobody to help them in the water. So a lot of them would sit there and watch the water stir, and there would be nobody to help them in. But the ones that were lucky enough to get in the water when the angels stirred it were healed. Sick and disabled people congregated around these pools with the hope of receiving healing. One day the tower collapsed, taking 18 of those souls. 18 people died because that tower collapsed. People had questions for Jesus about why these good people died, and he replied, were they the worst sinners in Jerusalem? Not at all. And you too will perish unless you repent. Luke 13:4-5. Faith check. Jesus went straight to the heart of the matter. The state of the souls who died so tragically. Disasters do not discriminate and do not offer anyone the favor of warning. We need to be ready by knowing our Maker in the here and now before we meet him face to face in the hereafter. And all that simply means is that you have to believe. And does your behavior change? Maybe. Maybe not. Because see, now we start to get into the subject of like homosexuality, whether or not it's okay to be married and then to get divorced and then remarry, because the Bible talks about all those things being wrong. But Jesus died because we weren't capable of living right. If we were capable of doing it, he would not have had to die. If you don't get anything else from this message, I want you to hear that. He didn't come to this world to condemn you, to make you feel bad about the things that you're doing wrong. He came here to save you from them because he knew you couldn't do right. And God loved you so much that he took a part of himself. He took himself in the form of a baby, born out of a virgin, and grew up and began his ministry when he was 33 years old and died pretty soon after. I think he started it at 30 and died at 33. He didn't have a ministry very long, and most of that time he had to stay hidden because they were continuously trying to entrap him and catch him in lies and accuse him of being a heretic or of being a blasphemer, of saying things that were untrue. But they didn't realize that he was the Word of God, because it says that he was God and he was the Word of God. And everything that came out of his mouth was Scripture. And if everything that came out of his mouth was written down, the world could not have contained the books that would have been written. So if you think just because you've read that book from cover to cover that you know it all, you're wrong. Because everything that was spoken was never written down. And some of the stuff that was spoken was taken out. And then it says, when we have nothing left but God, we discover that God is more than enough. Did you hear that? When you have nothing left but God, you discover that God is more than enough. And I'm going to tell you right now that tomorrow, if something miraculous doesn't happen, all I have is God. And God is more than enough. And he has proven that to me over and over and over and over again. But does it stop me from freaking the fuck out and worrying and losing sleep? No. Because I'm human. I'm not perfect. None of us are. If nothing else, we all have a crack in our ass. All right, Spirit, talk to me. Why are we getting this message about this friend that died? Can I have a prayer, please? Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy. And that's pretty much what we're talking about, because these are the types of feelings that we have when we lose a loved one, especially a best friend. There's not much worse in this world than losing a best friend. And I had a best friend one time, and he and I spent the day together. In fact, I was a nurse at the time, and he had come to my house looking for me one night. And I was at work. I was working 12-hour shifts from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. And when I came home, my mama said, "Have you seen Dean?" And I said, "No, what's going on?" And she said, "I don't know, but you might need to check on him because something ain't right. He came up here looking for you, and he was asking all kinds of medical questions." And I said, "I'll get up with him and see if I can find out." But when I tried to call him, I couldn't get an answer. So I finally went to his house the next day, and I was like, "What's up with you? What were you doing at my house the other night?" And he said, "Oh, man, I fucked up." I said, "What did you do?" He said, I took a whole handful of pills. And I said, did you go to the hospital? And he said, yeah. I said, well, did they pump your stomach? He said, I think he said no, or I don't remember. He may have said yeah, I don't know. But I said, or do you need me to take you to Crossroads, which is what they call the mental health, the part of the hospital for mental health patients? No, I'm okay, I promise you. He said, it gave me the shits. I learned my lesson and I'll never do that dumb shit again. And we laughed about it. And I was serious. I was dead serious. And I said, do you need me to take you to the hospital? Because I will go there with you and I will sit there with you and I will stay with you until they take you to the back and tell me I have to leave. I will not leave you there by yourself. I'm not just going to go drop you off. I'll wait. That way, if they don't keep you, I can bring you back home. I said, but it wouldn't hurt for you to get evaluated by a professional if you just tried to commit suicide. And see, he had just gotten out of jail and he had severe, severe, severe diabetes. And I would go over, he lived in a camper. My parents owned a campground, and he lived in a camper on their campground. And he had really severe diabetes, and he didn't eat right, and he drank all the time, and he did drugs. And I would walk over there, and he would be crawling around on the floor. And I was like, Dean, what are you doing, dude? And I was bringing him a plate of food. And he was like, I can't see. Can you find my insulin bag? I'm blind. Like, he would get his insulin, his sugar would get so freaking high that he couldn't even see. He would go blind. And I would have to get his insulin and help him pull it up in the needle for him so that he could take his insulin. And then he would even out and he'd feel better. And then he would eat the food that I brought for him. But that day that I spent with him, I went to go see him, and we made plans to hang out another day because he said he couldn't do it that day. And I said, well, I have to work, but I'm going to be off whatever day it was. I can't remember now. And I said, well, let's hang out then, okay? Because I haven't seen you in a while, and I missed you. Because he used to live with my parents down there at the creek, but my stepfather made him leave because of his drinking. He drank all the time, and he was raising hell down there. So my stepfather told him he had to leave, and he moved like maybe about 2 miles down the road. So I went and picked him up that morning, and he told me he wanted to go see his son at school. His son was very young at the time, in maybe like third or fourth grade, something like that. His son's name was Devin. So I took him to see Devin, and he sat there outside of the front of the school and talked to Devin for about an hour, and he cried and he cried. And when he got in the car with me, he cried and he cried and he cried. And I said, I know this is hard. Him and his wife had separated, and he wasn't able to see his children anymore because they were with her, and he was having to live in a camper at the creek. And then he said he wanted to go see his sister, who was working at the eyeglass place in Walmart. So I took him to Walmart, and his sister was out sick that day. So he said, would you mind helping me get her some flowers, and we'll take them to her house and I'll give her some flowers. And I said, sure, go pick some out. So he went and got some roses. I can't remember. I think they were pink. But he went and got the roses, and we checked out, and we took them to her house, and he stood there and talked to her for I sat in the car the whole time, gave him his privacy with his family. And it was almost like it felt weird, but I couldn't figure out why it felt weird. Even though I knew he had just tried to commit suicide, I didn't see it at the time, but he was saying goodbye to his family, and he was using me to do it. And then he tried to call his brother Denny several times, but Denny was working on the base, and he couldn't answer his phone. I don't guess he was allowed to have his phone on or something. And he tried to get up with his daughter, Melody, or I think maybe he didn't try to get up with her, because I think if he would have gotten up with her, she would have probably known what was going on. I don't really remember everything. But I know we went to the mall because I needed to go to the mall, to the Hallmark shop. And when we were standing in the mall, these things that I collect. They're all over my house, everywhere. They're called willow tree statues. And I have probably 30 of them all over my house. We were looking at those, and both of us at the same time, it was like we had this very weird reverse deja vu moment, almost like where you see into the future. Time out for Cameron for 24 hours. But we had a reverse deja vu moment where we saw into the future. I didn't see it, I felt it. He saw it and felt it. And I was like, did you just feel that? And he said, no, not. I didn't just feel it, I saw it. And when we left to go home. He didn't speak the whole way home. He didn't say a word. He just sat over there. And I had just bought that John Mayer album that had that song Gravity on it. And we listened to that whole album all the way home. And he was a heavy metal fanatic. Like, for him to listen to John Mayer, that was not Dean. But there was something about that album. The whole album almost like outlined what happened in his marriage. And he was like, these songs are talking about my fucking marriage falling apart. And I said, I hear it. And it's not the first time. Because after he died, then Shinedown came out with that song where it talks about Halley's Comet. Music has always spoken to me in a lot of ways. And then that song, Something to Remind You by Stained, came out. You remember that one? It was like, there's been times in my life when music described what was going on in my life. And I'm sure it wasn't just me. There was probably plenty of other people. And I told you before this video that this was going to be me channeling because I am a medium. And if you don't like it, then fucking leave. But don't be disrespectful in my comments. And that's not geared at anybody except the one that I timed out. The most recent thing, another thing about being a medium is you attract people to you right before they die. I can't tell you how many people. I had a girl that had a hospital bed right here in this corner with stage 4 cancer, and I didn't even know her. She showed up at my door one morning at 6 o'clock in the morning with a social worker with a cut across her neck where her husband had tried to kill her. And the social worker said she knows you and she wants to know if it's okay for her to stay here for a few days until we can find her somewhere else to go. And I was like, hold on, let me go ask my husband because he was in the bed asleep. And I went and I said, look, I said, there's a girl here. I said, I don't really know her. We're friends on Facebook and have been for years. And we talk on Facebook, but I don't really know this girl. But her husband tried to cut her throat. He was drunk last night. She's got stage 4 cancer. She weighs maybe 80 pounds soaking wet. She looks like she's going to die any day. And he said, of course she can stay here. So the social worker asked me, did I have somewhere for, for her to sleep or whatever. And I said, I'm going to clean this room out because this room, my husband was a pack rat. This room was so full of junk. And I had to clean it out that day. But 3 days later, they came back and they said, we haven't been able to find anywhere for her to go. Is it okay if she stays a little bit longer? And my husband came out of the bedroom and he said, this is her home. Bring her shit here and put it in that bedroom. And she stayed here till she died. Well, I would come in here and I have a devotion book that I would read to her every morning. And I would talk to her about, death or whatever she wanted to talk about. I even raised enough money that I took her to the beach for a whole week. And we stayed in a beautiful place. I had to pretty much carry her everywhere we went. But that was her dying wish, was to go to the beach one more time. So I took her to the beach, and people donated money so I could do that. But one day she sat in here in this room and she asked me, she said, Christy, is there anything I can do for you after I die? And I said, Holly. Her name was Holly. I said, that's a big question, baby. She knew I was special. She knew. And I said, give me a few days to think about it, and I'll let you know. And that was what I asked her. I said, can you check on Dean? Because you've always heard your whole life that if somebody kills themselves, they go to hell. And I said, I want to know where Dean's at. I want to know that he's okay, because in my heart, I believe he is. Well, I was working at an agency, and when you work in mental health or in any kind of doctor's office, your email is secure. You don't get spam or any kind of junk email in your work email. It just doesn't happen. And I got an email from a psychic down in Florida, and it said, Dean wants you to check on his brother, Denny. And I said, wow, haven't heard that name in a long time, because Denny and I had a little bit of history too from back when Dean passed away. And so because I had access to databases because of my job, I started looking for him. And I saw something on Facebook that made me believe he was either incarcerated or in rehab. Well, I found him incarcerated about 18 miles, 25 miles from here, something like that. And I wrote him a letter because the last time I saw him, basically he ghosted me. And I never heard from him again until his brother asked me to reach out to him in prison through a dead girl. I know how crazy this sounds, but somebody's lost their best friend. And something strange could have happened around this because you're gifted also. So anyway, I ended up reconnecting with Denny, and Denny and I are friends. He's in Virginia with his, what is she? Whatever she is, his friend. Wife, girlfriend, I guess. I don't know. He gave her an engagement ring and called it a friendship ring. And I told him, marry her, Denny, and stop fucking with her head. And then and then her daughter told him the same thing. So then when he gave it to her at Christmas, he called it a promise ring. And I was like, marry her, motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Like, quit playing with this woman's head. But either marry her or fucking move on. So anyway, that's how I ended up reconnecting with Denny. And not long ago, maybe April of last year, something like that, maybe a year ago, it may have been a year. I needed some work done because I had a fire. And my best friend, Stacy, she said, I wouldn't normally recommend this, but he's doing good. And he needs to make some money. And I was like, who? She said, Daniel. And I was like, your ex? DJ's dad? She said, yeah. And I was like, is he sober? And she said, well, he says he is. And I said, well, he's going to have to be if he comes here. Because I'm not putting up with no riffraff. And you already know. She said, well, I wouldn't even suggest it if I didn't think he was sober. So he came up here and he did quite a bit of work for me. I got 3 tons of crush and run delivered, and he spread it all the way down my driveway, which is probably like a half a mile long. And then he helped me fix my sewer. My sewer went out on me. Helped me fix that. He helped me figure out what was wrong with it, that it just needed to be emptied. My septic tank. Well, he and I became very good friends. And at first, when he moved in here, he didn't know what to think about me because he didn't believe in the cards. And then Stacy asked him one day, she said, what do you think about Christy? And I never knew that she asked him. I never had a clue. But he came over here all the time, and I would stay with Miss Mary because I was staying with Miss Mary overnight, and he would come stay here so he wouldn't have to stay with his mom and dad, and he would spend the night. And then when I would come home in the morning, he would leave. And I told him, I said, look, why don't we go to the beach? Like, I really want to go to the beach because it was getting to be warm. But I don't want to go by myself. I said, I'll pay for everything. I just want you to go with me. Just, friends. We're just going to go as friends. I just want somebody to go with me. And Stacy was working around the clock. She couldn't go. And he told me, he said, I can't. I got to work. And I said, okay, well, I guess I won't go then. Well, he ended up going to the beach with these other two people, a 20-year-old girl and a 30-year-old guy that he was working with. But they were all doing drugs together, too, and staying in a hotel in Greenville. And when he went to the beach with them that day on the way back, I don't know what happened. I don't know who was driving. But whoever was driving apparently fell asleep at the wheel. And when they did, they pushed their foot on the accelerator as hard as they could push their foot. And the car was probably going at least 100 miles an hour or more when they hit the ditch. And when they hit the ditch, it was like a small ditch. And they flipped end over end for 2 football fields, and all 3 of them were thrown from the car. And Daniel was killed instantly. And I'll never forget it. Stacy called me at 6 o'clock that morning, and I had just gotten up to go to the bathroom, and the phone rang. And I said, who in the hell is calling me on a Saturday morning at 6 o'clock? And I answered the phone, and I said, what's going on? She said, Daniel's dead. I said, what? She said, yeah. I said, did he kill himself? Because he had been up here a few nights before talking about he wanted to use my gun to kill himself. And I said, motherfucker, you ain't going to use my gun to kill yourself. You go find your own fucking gun, but don't be fucking with mine. Because I ain't having no part of it. And I said, I don't know why you want to die anyway. I said, life is way too short. And he was always talking about death. Every time he came around me, he ended up talking about death. But he told Stacy one time, she said, what do you think about Christy? And he said, I don't know what to think about her. At first, I didn't really know what to think about her. He said, but she's a prophet, and she doesn't know it. Because I laid in there on that couch and listened to her one day while she was doing one of her videos. And she was saying things about my life that she could have never known, ever. She didn't even know she was talking about me. And I remember exactly what I was saying in that reading. And it wasn't good. He had some demons. And I will never forget it because he got drunk as hell that night that he was talking about killing himself. And he walks up to me now. You got to understand, I've been celibate for 15 years. And he didn't know that because I don't announce that to men when I meet them. I don't, I'm like, I try to get to know somebody first. But he walked over to me at the kitchen counter. I always stood at the sink and so did he. And we looked out the kitchen window together and we would always joke like, what the fuck are we looking at? We're just looking out the window. And he said, I don't know. There's just something very comforting and very peaceful about this place. And I said, there really is. But he walked up to me and he said, excuse my language, but he said, would you give me a blowjob if I let you? And I busted out laughing. I mean, and this guy had an ego the size of Texas. And he was like, what are you laughing at? I said, first of all, if you let me, like you're special that way? And second of all, fuck no, I wouldn't give you a blowjob. I've been celibate at that time it had been 14 years. For 14 years. And I said, if you don't know what celibacy is, it means I haven't had sex or even masturbated in 14 years. Because I made a vow not to until I found the person that I was going to spend the rest of my life with. Now, the first 10, I was with a husband who was sick, and I was keeping my vows to him. But since then, it's been a vow to God that I'm going to keep myself pure so that I can continue to have the gifts that I have until I find a man that'll be faithful to me. And I am still single after all these years. So somebody's had a friend that's died, and I think you're very gifted, and I think there were some suspicious circumstances around the death where you maybe had seen it coming but didn't know that you saw it coming, or maybe did know you saw it coming but didn't know how to stop it, because that also happened to me with my sister. I knew for 3 months that something was going to happen to one of my sisters. I was having nightmares. I was waking up and praying and begging God not to let it happen. And then on a Monday morning, the director of nurses called me to her office, and I didn't go. I was passing out medications to the patients on the hall. And one of the other nurses came over to me, and she said, "Why aren't you going? She's calling you to go up there and see her. The director of nurses is calling you. You need to go." And I said, "I already know what she wants, and I don't want to hear it." And she said, "How do you know what she wants?" And I said, "Because I just do. I've been knowing. I just didn't know it was going to be today. But that's the only other reason I can think of that she would be calling me to her office, and it's not going to be good." And finally, the director came out there, and she was like, "Christy, I know you hear me calling you. I've called you like 4 times. Why aren't you coming to my office?" And I said, "Because I already know what you want. Where do I need to go? To the hospital or to the scene of the accident?" And she said, "How do you know?" Because, back then we didn't have cell phones and all that kind of stuff. And I said, "Because I've been knowing. I've been having nightmares, and I've been telling my mom that something was going to happen. I just didn't know which one. I thought it would have been my middle sister because she was the one that was driving, and I knew it was going to be a car accident. But it was my baby sister, and it was 3 days after her 15th birthday. And she got killed right down the road here, within walking distance of my house. She was on her way to school, and there was 4 girls in the car, and her and the other little girl in the back seat got ejected out the back window of one of those little Mitsubishi Eclipses that have the top of the car is like right here. I cannot stand to be in a car while I feel like I'm in a grave. And it's because of what happened to her, because she got ejected out the back window, and it instantly broke their neck, just like a Superman break, so that they couldn't breathe. They had they lost all control of their body because of the type of break that they had in their neck. So anyway, I feel like you're somebody that's very similar to me for some reason. And you kind of sense that these things are going to happen before they happen. And I don't think you like that it happens. I think you wish that it wouldn't, but you don't have any control over it. And neither do I. And I will get feelings sometimes for months before it happens. And I've had those feelings for months. Like, you just know somebody's going to die. And it's like, God, I don't want to have this feeling. Why are you giving me this feeling? I don't want to have this feeling. And usually they end up somehow around me before it happens. They find me. It's because you have a gift of mediumship. And people who have a gift of mediumship are able to contact both worlds at once. You can live with one foot in each world at the same time. And a lot of times that's why we don't fit in anywhere. And that's a lot of times why when people meet us, they don't like us. And it's nothing that we're doing wrong. We're just being ourselves. It's that they don't understand us because we say things while they're thinking them. And we don't even know we're doing it. And that freaks people out. So if you're unliked or you're being mistreated by somebody, and you can't, just like that last job that I lost, I couldn't understand why that lady hated me, but it's because I was saying things before she could get them out of her mouth. And the way I know that is because I had had a meeting, and in that meeting I said, we need all hands on deck. And she joined the meeting later, and the last thing that she said before we closed the meeting was, guess what? We need all hands on deck. And I had already said it to everybody in the meeting, and they all knew it, but she didn't. And I think that's what she didn't like about me. It wasn't that she didn't like me or that I wasn't good at what I did, because I'm damn good at what I do. It's because she didn't understand how I could know what she was thinking and I could speak it out of my mouth without her ever saying a word. That freaked her out. And her mother died when she was a year old, and I don't think she ever got over that because she still talked about it, and she's in her late 20s. Anyway, Spirit, I don't know why you have me here giving this real weird message tonight, but I'm going to find out real quick. Something happened to your friend, and I'm going to see if you may not know. It could have been one of those things where it was like an unsolved mystery, but I was told to get some cards out, and I've got them. I've got to find them. Oh, I think I put them in this drawer. Yeah, there they are. I actually create cards. I'm a card creator, but I've never really gotten into it professionally. I just do it for fun right now. For fun. Create cards for fun. So we're going to try to get some details about what happened to your friend, okay? All right, Holy Spirit, can you lead me, guide me, and direct me in a reading that help me to channel the energy of this person, this loved one, this best friend who's crossed over? Show me the details that we need to see so that we can get closure and healing and whatever else is needed. In Jesus' name, amen. I also had videos one time, and there were warnings in all caps. Warning, domestic violence. Warning, warning, warning. And I don't know if the girl still watches, but she has her own channel. She's a numerologist. And the readings were for her because of her best friend. And I had like 3 readings that week. And that weekend, her best friend was killed by her boyfriend in a domestic violence altercation. And the readings were warning her not to get around him. All right, talk to me. What happened here? Ooh, that flew out. Only take what resonates for your situation. Something was not for you. Something was not for you. Okay? Somehow there was something that was just not for you. All right, what else? What else, Spirit? Woo. Somebody also, they also have some beach memories. Alright, what else? Watch me rise. Somebody had a lot of karma in their life. They were trying to rise above it. And somebody was either a fraud or they were into fraud. They were somehow fraudulent. Alright, one more time with this deck, and then I'm going to move on to the next deck. So you know who you are, and you know who I'm talking about already. Spirit's telling me you already know. I'm jealous of your success. This person was jealous of your success. Or maybe somebody was jealous of their success. And somebody was going through a spiritual awakening also. All right, talk to me, Spirit. What else do we need to know about this person's death? There were red flags. Look, This person wants you to know I love you. Somebody was a runner. They could have been a runner, like they could have ran. Or for some reason they could have been on the run, maybe for committing fraud. And fill in the blank, which means I don't have a card for that. One more time. I know, I used to be a runner when I was a kid. I used to run mini marathons, and I ran 8 miles a day up until I was 10 years old. Somebody like to have kinky sex. Go for it. And somebody had teenage attitude issues. So this person could have had children that were teenagers. And then we have, I'm pregnant. This person could have been pregnant when they died. And in fact, I think the girl, I don't know. It's been so long ago. Anything else, Spirit? Some of these may resonate and some may be for other people. Only take what resonates. Somebody was a gold digger. Call me, please. Stop overthinking, Spirit says. Somebody got ghosted. One more time. I feel like this could have been a car accident for some of you. Or they could have been hit by a car. Like run over. They were being stalked on social media. I'm watching your kids looking for a chance to abduct them. I'm their parent too. So there was a parent involved. Remember, they were pregnant and they had teenage attitude issues. Something was significant about August. Remember, I told you this was a reading for the sign of Leo? August. And somebody had a lot of gratitude. Somebody could have also needed to make a lot of choices. And Netflix and tequila. This person may have been someone who drank a lot of tequila, or you might be, and y'all might have had tequila and Netflix for some reason. Alright, so that's the details I was able to get for you about your situation. Please let me know by liking, sharing, and subscribing if this resonates with you in any way. Spirit, can you tell me approximately when this person died? Give me a month. Oh my God. Oh my God. They're not dead yet. For some of you, they're not dead yet. They're going to die 6 months from now. I fucking hate this gift. Not later than you think. So you already know this is going to happen. Can you give me a date? In a few days, September, not in the summer. What is it now? March, April, May, June, July, August, September. And it's going to happen in the morning. Spirit's warning somebody. I don't like this reading. Spirit, why? Spirit told me it's none of my damn business why. To just do the reading. Alright, show me how you're working in this situation. Injustice, justice in reverse, and a chariot upright. Okay? What's the energy to overcome? It looks like there's going to be some kind of injustice with a car. Either somebody may be hit by a car or in a car accident, and it may not be their fault. They could be hit by a drunk driver or something like that. The energy to overcome is being so unhappy, and no doubt, of course you're going to be unhappy. I don't like this reading. What's going to pull it together? The Hierophant. The Hierophant. It looks like you're probably going to have life insurance on this person. And if not, you need to get it. Death on the bottom of the deck. They might spend some time in an institution, like in a hospital, and you may have time to actually get closure and to say goodbye to them. That Hierophant could represent a hospital. They could end up in a coma. I'm feeling strongly for somebody that could be the case. All right, talk to me. I'm being told to use the Tattoo Tarot, which I don't use very often. It doesn't. It has pictures, but not like a regular tarot. But it's good for stuff like this. Don't ask me why. The King of Swords and the Three of Cups. So this is somebody who's very intellectual. They have good boundaries. They're talkative. They dress nice. But they party. They could be the one that's drinking and driving. I also have the Knave of Swords, or the Knight of Swords, I think is what that is. And the Three of Cups in reverse. So it's like there's somebody younger than them that doesn't party. That could be the teenager with the attitude issues, because they might be mad because their parent parties all the time. Why is Justice in reverse? Because of the World and that Knave of Swords. I think that's a knight. Alright, Spirit, talk to me. Why is injustice here? These gifts are getting so intense right now for some reason. There we go. Oh my goodness. The injustice has to do with the Seven of Swords and the Four of Wands. So something is going to happen at home that's going to cause this person to have to leave, it looks like, their home. And I think they're going to get behind the wheel of the car. There's the Chariot, clarifying the Chariot. Why is the Chariot here? Because of the High Priestess in reverse and the Eight of Wands. Because you already know that you're going to get bad news. You're already getting that news. You don't want that news. You're trying not to receive it. You're trying not to receive this news, but you've already received it. This reading is not a surprise to you. Why is the Sun here? The reading might be a surprise to you, but this situation is not a surprise. The fact that I picked up on it might be the surprise. But it's not a surprise that I'm reading on this. The Eight of Pentacles is in reverse. That's why you're unhappy, because this person can't come back. When they're gone, they're gone. They can only come back through dreams and visions and maybe reincarnation, if that's a thing. Who knows? We don't know. Why is the Hierophant here? Because of the Fool in reverse and the Two of Pentacles. The Two of Pentacles is like balancing out your money. And the Hierophant being clarified by a Fool in reverse, it's like don't take a risk when it comes to balancing out your money. What's the risk that they don't need to take? It has to do, oh my God. The King and Queen of Swords came out. I think this is a masculine that's going to die. And I think she is going to be, if you're not careful, this woman right here is going to try to profit from this. She might be the one with the insurance policy in her name. Look, there's the Ten of Wands in reverse. Why is the Death card here? Because of the Eight of Cups. That was the Eight of Pentacles. Okay, so I misunderstood. Okay. The unhappiness is about not being able to work this out or being able to work. Why is that going to be unhappy? Maybe because that's what... Yep. Because there was another woman that was going to offer this person a job. There's another woman that was planning, a Leo, that was planning on, I think, offering this person a job. The Eight of Pentacles is what I thought it was the Eight of Cups. But the Death card is somebody walking away. Clarify who's walking away. Aquarius is here with the Four of Pentacles. So it's like there's no hope for stability anymore because this person had to leave. They are your stability. And there's a woman that's going to cause a fight at home. They're deceiving him. How are they deceiving him? I think he's the one that's going to die. Because they are fucking somebody else. They have somebody else younger that they're sleeping with. That could be a Sagittarius. And they have no love for this person whatsoever. They could be sleeping with more than one person. The Three of Wands is here. Anything else we need to know? What was the Queen of Wands' intentions here? Oh, man. Oh, wait, I found another card on the floor. February is also significant, y'all. Look, the Queen of Wands' intentions were to make this person happy again. And to give them work that would manifest into something amazing for them. There's a woman. The energy to overcome is that this woman, this Leo, this person wants to help so desperately, but they can't help somebody who won't let them. And look, there's a lot of nostalgia here. The Six. No, there's a lot of that's why I hate these cards. There's a lot of somebody giving money to somebody. Somebody's having to give money to somebody. And I think it's probably this Queen of Wands. And she wanted to offer him an opportunity that would have led him to manifesting. What would he have manifested? I think everything. But for some reason, he's stuck on stupid over there with her. What would he have manifested? Spirit's getting just the right cards. There it is. Oop, there it is. I can't fucking make it up. There's an Empress here. But the Four of Cups is about somebody who is bored. Why is she bored? Why does she not want to take love from him? Oh, this man has a lot going on. Look, there's two more people involved. There's a lot of people involved in this. There's a King of Pentacles and a Queen of Cups also involved in this. So the Empress could have been the mother. And this mother has not been showing this person. She loves him. But she's tired of his bullshit. With this woman over here who she knows is fucking around on him and is going to get his ass killed. Clarify the Knight of Wands, because the Knight of Wands could actually have something to do with this and could die also, because he is also in reverse. The Nine of Swords. The Nine of Swords and the Three of Wands. So that's like looking for an opportunity to cause a nightmare. Yeah, this person that she's sleeping with could end up killing this person. Somebody understands every word of this. And there's the Five of Swords. Like, I'm going to win at all costs here. I'm not giving up until I know I won. I don't know what to tell you. And I don't know why Spirit's telling you something that hasn't even happened yet. But Spirit indicated to me that that was none of my concern. And so I'm not going to worry about it because I don't like to do readings that predict bad shit. But sometimes that's just the way it is. For some of us. For some of us. And if you have the gift of mediumship, you're one of them. And you know that. I don't know what else to tell you. I think the reading's pretty much over. I don't know what else to tell you. Is there anything positive we can get here? There's going to be somehow a reconciliation. And somebody has a lot of talent. So maybe you're going to reconcile with this person because it doesn't look like you're getting along with them right now because of the person that they're with. Alright, what else? There's going to be a lot of money, a lot of prosperity. One more time I'm hearing. Damn, I hate readings like this. There's going to be truth when it comes to a new beginning. And it has something to do with home. What's the truth about the new beginning in the home? It came out. The home. The truth is home. And this is where you're going to find your happiness. This person could leave you a house. I hate these readings. What's going to happen to the person who's involved in this person's dying? They're going to be under spiritual attack. They are going to also get destroyed. They could die also. That could be the Knight of Wands. And somebody doesn't want to hear it. Somebody is attracting like a moth to a flame. And I think it's his old lady. I think that she is sleeping with a lot of people. And he's aware of it. And I think there's going to be an argument. And he's either going to get behind the wheel of that car and drive and get killed in that car. Or they could both end up in that car together. And they could have a fight. I don't know. I'm feeling a lot of different things. Anything else going to happen to this person responsible? It's going to affect their parenting. They're going to leave children behind. And they're also going to get kicked to the curb. So they're going to get kicked out of where they're living. Can I go one more time, please? Yep. They're attracting like a moth to a flame. There's going to be a movie date. And it's game over. So they may go out with this other person. Yeah. And somebody enjoys watching shit go down and enjoys gossip. So it's like they're going to go out with somebody to the movies and get caught is what it looks like to me. That's what it looks like to me. But somebody's dying in 6 months. And I don't know why Spirit would ask me to tell you that. But I'm going to ask their higher self to give you a message. Can their higher self please give a message to whoever this was for? The one that's going to die, their higher self. May I get a message for whoever this is for? I have a hard time trusting anyone. I'm doing just fine on my own. I keep being drawn back to you and I can't quite explain why. And I should have, could have, would have. So they're going to regret whatever goes down here. And as more time passes by, I feel a deeper void without you in my life. No. I promise my readings are not normally like this, but if Spirit gives me a reading, I have to give it to you just the way it's given to me. And you have seen how everything that I have said has pretty much fit together. I mean, I can't make that kind of shit up. Trinkets, please. Drop some. I got a lot. I got a light bulb. I got something that says it's Chinese food. A lifetime of supportive mentors will nurture your talents. Remember, they have talent. An owl. A rose. Somebody's name could be Rose. I have a unicorn. I have a horse. I have an Eiffel Tower. I have a starfish. I have a skeleton key. I have horns. You know, horns up. I have another Eiffel Tower. I have a crown that says princess. I think somebody has a daughter. I have a crescent moon with a baby. I think they might also have a toddler. I have... Do you know that old picture that they used to have when I was a kid of the angel watching over the children that were walking over a broken bridge, protecting them from getting hurt? That's what that is. And then I have a butterfly that says, created for you. I have a fish. Remember the Christianity part of it? She believed she could, so she did. The love between a grandmother and a granddaughter is forever. And I have a shell. Somebody's name could be Shell. And then I have a wing, an angel wing. And now I'm being told to get you some of these. You have some very powerful spiritual gifts operating. May I see what's going on here? Abundance came out for you again. Somehow this is going to lead you to a lot of abundance. There's that new beginning, the seedling, a new beginning. Look, your loved ones in spirit are here. Your chakras being aligned are here. One more time I'm hearing. Somebody's going to also finally have a job. Remember, she was going to offer that person a job? It came out in reverse, and somehow somebody's gifted with numbers. It looks like somebody's best friend is going to die in 6 months, and Spirit's just preparing you. I don't know why. I hate when this shit happens. All right, what would your best friend say to you? Anxiety is the enemy of growth. Make it happen. So there's something that you and this person have been talking about getting done. They're saying get it done and stop letting anxiety, your fear, stop you. Because the anxiety, that fear is the enemy of your growth. And you can make this happen. Alright, I wish I could say that there was better news, but for somebody this is not going to be a happy ending. But you know what? People die every single day, and we're all going to die too. Every single one of us. And I don't know why God's giving you a heads up, but Spirit says you do. Okay? This is a reading for the sign of Leo. I hope you have a wonderful night. Those of you who were here and it was not your reading, I'm sorry. I will come back tomorrow night, and then I'll be here Saturday and Sunday, and I will do another sign, and it's going to be a surprise. I'm going to let Spirit select the signs, okay? All right, you guys have a great night, and I'm sending you a lot of love and light for this stuff that you're going to have to endure between now and then. Good night, Julianne. I love you, sweetheart. Namaste. Come on.